Apparently, I neglected to show you how to actually use the information from the face detection, object detection, and license plate recognition videos that we've been doing. So let's fix that. Hey guys, and welcome back to another Tech Tutorial Tuesday, the series where you guys ask questions and I do my best to answer them as quickly and efficiently as possible. And today we are taking a look at templates. And it's not that I neglected to tell you how to use them in the last couple of videos. I definitely thought about it, but they are a very complex and complicated topic, and so they kind of require their own dedicated video. So that's what we're doing today. Templates, what are they, what do they do, and how do we use them? Before we get into it, if you like this video, make sure to drop it a like and hit the subscribe button if you aren't already. And if you want your question answered in the next Tech Tutorial Tuesday, make sure to drop it in the comments down below, and you never know, I might just answer it. Okay, so templates, what are they? Well, templates allow you to do templating. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. Pew. Templates are kind of a very complex beast, but a couple of the main functions that they can do are that they can help you format incoming sensor data. So for example, if you have some raw data that is just a very jumbled mess and doesn't make too much sense, you can use templates to extract certain bits of information that you want and into their own sensors. Templates can also create dynamic messages for text-to-speech or for notification messages. For example, if you wanted to announce the name of a person that just came home, you could use a template to do that instead of programming in everyone's names individually. They can also be used to create if statements or for loops, allowing you to build more complex automations. How do templates relate to the previous videos? Well, I mentioned in those videos about extracting information from the entity or the sensor and then using that in your automations. But because the information is stored in the attributes rather than the state, it's not so easy to get at, and that's where templates come in. We're going to be working on the data from the number plate recognition video, and I'm going to give you 3 different examples of how you can use templates. You can apply anything that I give you here to any of the other previous videos, it works the exact same, and you can apply it to anything else you want really. I'm just using the number plate video as a practical example so that you can see visually what's going on, otherwise I'll go off on some tangent and it won't really make sense. Quick disclaimer, I am by no means a template expert. I can certainly hack my way along and get by, but yeah, definitely not an expert. And like many things in Home Assistant, there are many ways to do templates. There are shorter written hand ways of some of the templates I'm going to show you, but I don't think they are visually the easiest to learn if you're a beginner. So I'm going to show you the longer ways, and then you can go back and do the shorter ways if you want. I'm going to show you 3 examples of templates in Home Assistant. The first one is how to use a template as a trigger within an automation. Then we're going to do how to use a template as a notification message, also in an automation. And then finally, I'll show you how to use a template in order to create a sensor. Inside Home Assistant, head over to DevTools and then Templates. And if you've never used this before, then this is an excellent tool that will allow you to quickly test and prototype your templates to make sure that they work as you intended before you use them in your automations or config. This saves you having to restart Home Assistant each time you make a template to see if your sensor works. You can just do it here, get the results you want, and then copy it over to your config. Okay, so I've got 2 windows open here. This one on the left is the Developer Tools States, and the one on the right over here is the Developer Tools Templates, and that looks a little bit like this. And I'm going to get rid of the stock information for now. If you're not sure how to get to these pages, then just come down to Developer Tools, click on States, and again, Developer Tools, and then Template at the top there. So when we're working with templates, you'll find that there are 2 most common type of templates you'll see, and that when we're working with templates, you need to use the curly brackets. So they start with a curly bracket and they end with a curly bracket. If you have a template that has a double curly bracket, a little bit like this, that indicates that it is a statement, and so that will essentially print out the value or the contents of the template. And if we have a template that starts with a curly bracket and then a percent like this, and then ends with a percent and a curly bracket, that is the start of a statement. So an if statement or a for loop or something like that. I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but it'll get a bit more apparent as we go through the examples. So if on the left here, I've got an entity that everyone should have, and that is the sun.sun sensor. And you'll see that I have a state, which is above horizon, and then I've got the attributes, and it has a ton of values in here. Remember that an entity can only have a single state. It can't have multiple values in there, so just one state, but it can have multiple attributes, as you can see here. So I've got a single state, and I've got multiple attributes. And one of the most simplest templates you can do is to get the state of a sensor. So if I do something like this, so I've got my double curly brackets, which indicates that I'm going to do a statement. And then if I type states, open a bracket, and then enter the name of my sensor, which is sun.sun, and then close my brackets, I get something that looks like this on the right hand side. It says above horizon, and that matches the state of my sensor over here. Hopefully that makes sense. So double curly brackets indicates that it's going to print out whatever is inside the template. Another one you can do is to get the attributes. So if I change this from states to state_attr, and then after the entity, I need to do a comma, and then I enter the name of the attribute that I want to get. So I'll just set elevation. And that gives me the value of the elevation, so 20.72. You can see that that matches the elevation of 20.72. So that is a very basic example. Now let's move on to a more practical example, and that is going to be using the license plate information that we got from the previous videos. Okay, so I've resized my screen a little bit, hopefully you guys can see that. And then on the left hand side here, we have my image processing and the plate recognizer entity. And then on the right hand side, we have the template editor or tester. And the first one I want to do is to get the number of remaining API calls from the image processing sensor. And that is this value here, this calls remaining. So what we want to do is over in the template editor, so that, this calls remaining is actually under the statistics. And all I'm going to do is start building out my template. So I start with the double curly brackets, and remember that indicates a print statement. And then I use the state_attr for attribute because the value we want to get is in the attributes column. Then I open my normal brackets and open a quote, and then I start entering the name of my sensor. So that is the image processing one. I'm just going to copy that because it's quite long. And then close your quotes, and then using a comma, we give the name of the attribute that we want to get. So we actually want to get the statistics one. So enter statistics, close your brackets, and then you'll see on the right hand side, that gives us all of the entries that are under the statistics attribute. So see total calls, usage, year, month, resets, etc., and that corresponds to this information on the left hand side here. But the one we actually want to get is the calls remaining. All of this other information is just extra fluff that we don't need to deal with at the moment. So remember, if you take a note of this value, so calls remaining 2485, I'm going to make this screen bigger just so we have a bit more room to work with. And then so basically I want to filter down this value to get just the 2485. And we can do that by adding a dot at the end and then using the attribute that we want to get. So calls_remaining. And that's going to give us a number 2485. So we're getting a bit closer, but that doesn't really help us out because in order to use a template in a trigger, you need to have a value of true or false. So we need our template to give us a true or false value so that we can use it as a trigger. So the next thing I'm going to do is to enter so remember I said that these double brackets indicate a print statement, and a bracket with a percentage indicates a expression or that can be used for like an if statement or a for loop or something like that. So I'm going to change those brackets because we're going to do an if statement. And so all I need to do is at the start add if, state a attribute, statistics, call remaining, and then at the end I'm going to do a less than 2485. And you'll see over here it's complaining that we haven't added in. So what we're going to do is on the next line, we enter true. And then on the line under that, we enter brackets, %. And then we do else, close your brackets. And then on the next line, enter false. And then we end our statement using the end if block. And so that is going to return the false value on the right hand side here. And that's because if you look at it, our calls remaining isn't currently under 2485. If I were to change this to 2486, that value will now change to true. And so that is essentially how to do a basic if statement using the state attribute. So all I need to do now is to copy this. And if we head over into our automations and we create a new automation, all I need to do now is to change the trigger type to template. And then we simply paste in the value of our template that we got from the template tester, save that, and now your template will execute whenever this sensor gets below a certain value. Now we're going to jump over and do a template that will give us a dynamic notification message. Okay, so back over in the template tester, the next one I want to do is to get a list of all the number plates that our image processing sensor has picked up and detected. So we want to loop through and list all of these plates that are in here, and that could be any number of plates. It could be 1 plate or it could be 10 plates. So what I'm going to do is get rid of this, and then we're going to start off using a expression statement using the bracket %, and then I want to use a set parameter, which is essentially assigning the value to a variable. So if you think about it in terms of if you've ever coded before, it's kind of like setting a variable. So we do the set command, and then we give it a name. So we're just going to call this vehicles because vehicles equals. So I want to get a list of all the vehicles, and that is under the vehicles attribute. So I'm going to say set vehicles equals state underscore attr because it's an attribute. Open my brackets, and then I'm going to paste in the value of that sensor again. And then add a comma, and this time I'm going to get the vehicles attribute. So enter that. Close my brackets. %. And then this time you'll see over on the right hand side, it is a valid template, but it's not returning anything. And that's because we are using the % brackets. So what we can do is on the line underneath, we can simply use the double brackets and then print out the vehicles variable. And so that gives us a list of all the vehicles nicely ordered on the right hand side. So that's kind of useful, but it's not really what we want because there's some extra information here. I don't really need to know the region code because I set that, and I don't really need to know the vehicle type because it doesn't really make any difference to me whatsoever. So now we're going to set a for loop. And to do that, we just get rid of this, and then we're going to set the bracket %, and then start a for loops. And so we say for vehicle in vehicles, and that's going to start a new for loop. And this vehicle does not matter. You could name that whatever you want. I can name that laptops for all that matters. It's just a placeholder for a name. So on the next line down, we'll indent and then we'll start printing. So what I want to do is to get vehicle, let's just do that for now. So we're going to print vehicle, and then we're going to end our for loop using the brackets %, and for. And you'll see this time it prints out the exact same information as we had before. It looks slightly different just because we're using a for loop. So that's pretty handy, but what if we want to narrow it down even further? So all I really want to do is to get the plate. So this time I could, in the vehicle, all I need to do is to enter vehicle.plate, and that will change all of the values and only return the values of the plate number. So that's pretty useful. If I also want to get the confidence, I can then add a second one and do something like vehicle.confidence. And that will then return the plate alongside the confidence value so that I can use that in my automations. And we can add anything we want in here. We could also do something like this. We could enter plate, and then we could do confidence, just to make it look a little bit nicer for our notification, because we're going to be using all of this information and putting it into a notification so that we get an instant message telling us all of the number plates that have been detected, for example. So that is pretty good and useful. However, the only thing that is kind of bugging me is that this confidence level isn't really, I mean, it does make sense because it's 0.9, that's 90%. However, we could make it a little bit nicer by changing that into a percent. So what we're going to do is to use one of the functions called round. And all you need to do is to do the straight line or the pipe symbol, and then we enter round. Let's do round to 2. And so that gets rid of all the extra decimal places. And then we simply multiply by 100. And that gives us our percent. And we can enter a percent symbol right at the end. Okay, so I've made that a little bit bigger for you. And then all we need to do is enter the percent symbol at the end. And now that is starting to look pretty good. So we've got our plates. It includes the plate number it detected, and then it also gives us a confidence score of the proper percentage. So we've done some simple math, and we've got the exact percentage that it is. And so once again, all we need to do is then copy this information, head over to our automations, and we create a new automation. And this time you could use something like the state of the number plate sensor, so plate recognizer, and you could set the state of that from 0, but that's not really what we're focusing on just now. And then in the actions, you could do something like call service, and then do notify, and then in the message, you could do something like this and just paste in the templates that we have here. Make sure to get your indentation correct, otherwise it will not work. And so there we go, that is essentially a basic notification message, and that will loop through and give you a notification, and it will tell you all of the plates that were recognized right in the notification message. Now let's go back and do the third example, and that is to use a template to create a sensor. For our third and final example, I want to create a binary sensor that detects whether the number plate is detected or not, and you could use that for some sort of presence detection. So if that number plate is detected, it will change the binary sensor to on or home, and if it isn't, it will be off or away. So I want to get a specific plate or look for a specific plate within this, within these attributes. So essentially, we're going to combine a for loop and an if loop into one template here. So what I do is I'll get rid of that for the moment. So what I'll do is get rid of that for the moment. So the plate we're going to be looking for is this G669YMF. So if we remember that, and I'm also going to grab the name of this image processing sensor just so I don't have to type it again. And we'll make this a little bit bigger just so you guys can see. So we're going to start this one same as before by creating a new variable. So we're going to set vehicle. That did the same type as before. Set vehicle equals, and then we're going to do state underscore attr. Open our brackets and enter the name of our sensor. And then we will enter the name of the attribute that we're looking for. So remember that is under vehicles. So the name of the attribute we're looking for is under vehicles once again. So enter vehicles. And then we will close our brackets. And again, if we just print out vehicles, vehicles, we get a list of all of our vehicles again. And we need to narrow it down so we can find just this specific number plate. So what we're going to do is to create a for loop once again. So exact same as before, we enter bracket % and we do for vehicle in vehicles, close our brackets, and then on the next line down. And so what we're going to do is we're going to search all of our vehicle plates for the exact specific plate that we need. So if I just close my for loop so that I can show you. And then on the next line down, remember that in the previous example, I used the vehicle.plate and that gave me all of the number plates. So if I show you that again, print that out. Why can I not spell today? And that gives us all of our number plates. But that doesn't really give us the information that we need because there's other plates in there that we don't necessarily need. So what we can then do, then we're going to start an if loop to search for the plate that we want. So start your if statement with bracket % if G669YMF, remember that was the number plate that we were looking for, in vehicle dot plate, close our brackets, and then on the next line down we do true, % else false, and then close our if loop. And so you can see there, it gives us false, false, true. And that's because the number plate that we want was the third one in the list. So that kind of works. It is useful so we can see that our number plate search is working. If I change this to something that doesn't exist, we'll get 3 falses. And if I change it back, we get our true. But we have extra falses in there which aren't really going to work because it's going to confuse our sensor. It's going to add false, false, true, and then the sensor won't work properly. So all we actually need to do is just to get rid of the false and the else, and that will leave us with a single true. And that means we can then use that in our template sensor. So now that we have found the exact plate that we want or narrowed it down, we can then copy this, and then we're going to head over and create a new binary sensor. Over in our Home Assistant configuration, we're just going to simply create a new binary sensor. And so we declare a new binary sensor, and then we set the platform to be template, enter sensors, and then we give our sensor a name. So I'm going to call this car_found. We can also give it a friendly name. Call that car found. And because this is going to be used for presence, I'm going to give it a device class of presence. Why can't I spell today? And then all we need to do is to create a value_template. And then simply paste in the value of our template that we used in the tester, and make sure that your indentation remains correct, otherwise it could mess things up. Once you've done that, you can then head over to configuration and then into server controls, and you can actually just reload the template entities. Once you've reloaded, head over into DevTools and then states, and then search for car_found, and you'll see that the state is now on. And if I look at that, it says that car found is home. So that is working well. But what about if we wanted to add a little bit more information into here so that it's a little bit more useful for our automations? So what about if we wanted to add the confidence level into the attributes? If we head back into the code, and then on a new line, we're going to enter attribute templates, and then we give our attribute a name. So I'm going to say confidence. And then again, we're going to use a template, and we're going to paste in the exact same template that we have up here, but we're going to make a little bit of changes. Make sure your indentation is set correctly. And then this time, instead of true, and then this time, instead of printing true, we're going to just simply print the vehicle.confidence. And that is all we need to do. So now if we head back and restart Home Assistant, so that is essentially printing the confidence level of that specific plate, and then assigning that into an attribute. So if we head back into configuration, server controls, and then reload our template entities, jump back over into DevTools, and you will see that our template now has a confidence level added to the attribute. So then we can use that to create our automations, and use the confidence level just to make sure there is a little bit of extra security there. If you wanted to add multiple cars into this, you would simply repeat the process, and then simply copy and paste your template sensor, copy this, paste it again, and then change the number plate that you're looking for to the second vehicle. You may also want to name these a little bit better than I have done there. But yeah, simply copy and paste your templates, assign the plate, and you should be good to go. And there we go, that is a basic beginner's guide to getting started with templates in Home Assistant, and we covered 3 different examples of where you can use templates within Home Assistant. And remember, all of the tips and techniques that we covered, you can take them and apply them to your own sensor or your own entities and get the results you need. But that's about all the time we have for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to drop it a like if you liked it, hit the subscribe button, and make sure to leave your comments or questions in the comment box down below for what you want me to cover in the next Tech Tutorial Tuesday. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.